Hello and welcome to PCI Webinars. Today's webinar, Teen Brain Development, Supporting Programming Advocating with April Pavis-Shroeder. April is a librarian and volunteer coordinator at a public library in Northern Virginia. She began working in St. Mary's County, Maryland Public Library in 2006 as a circulation associate and was soon voluntold into the position of Teen Advisory Board leader. She quickly realized how magnificent and passionate that age group was and decided to pursue a career in teen librarianship. April received her master's in library science from the University of Maryland in December 2010 and has worked in libraries ever since. Coming to you now from steamy Northern Virginia, it's April Pavis-Shroeder.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. I'm very happy to be joining you from inside my temperature-controlled house. It is extremely hot outside. I'm not sure about Florida because it's too hot for me to think about other states right now. So I hope you are all doing well and that you are safe and drinking your Gatorade. I want to thank you for coming to this webinar. Oh, Catherine and Jenny. All right, rub it in. It's absolutely beautiful where you are. Great. Thank you for coming to my webinar. I'm going to talk to you about teenagers, our most interesting and volatile patrons. Teenagers, they're often called unpredictable, emotional, hormonal, risky, lazy, and that's usually by their parents. Parents are kind of forced to love them. When teenagers are set free into society, they're called a lot worse. They're sneered at, followed, they're questioned by store clerks, hall monitors, security guards, and yes, even librarians. So today we're going to talk about why teens are the way they are. You're going to understand that they are controlled by a deep force within them, and it is their brain. Their still developing brain, to be specific. Today you're going to hear some theory. I've cited all my sources, so usually even on the slide you'll be able to see where I got my information from. I think that's really important so you can do more research outside of this webinar. You're also going to learn some actions that you can test out in your own library system. As questions come up, please ask by submitting them in that discussion box that most people have already kind of put something into about their location and such. At some point, I may be asking you a question that just requires a yes or a no. So you are going to go up to that little person raising their hand. And if I'm asking you to say yes, just hit agree. If I'm asking you to say no, then just disagree. All right, we are going to get the show on the road. So again, what's the next hour-ish going to look like? We're going to begin with some scientific research that's been conducted in the past decade or so. 2 books came out just in 2015, both of which were written by experts in the field of teen neurology, and both of which are actually pretty geared towards parents. However, librarians, we often interact with youth, whether we choose that position by being a young adult librarian, or if they happen to come up to our reference desk or our circulation desk, it doesn't matter. But as librarians, we often just interact with them. And sometimes, especially those people who interact very closely with teens via programming and things like that, sometimes we're kind of an in loco parentis, meaning in place of the parent. It's more normal for school librarians to kind of be in that place, but I think even those librarians that have really great relationships with their teens definitely can act in that place. I think some of us have been in those positions where you get to know them really well and you start a really great relationship with them and they come to you for advice. And I'm not talking advice on what college class to take next, their first semester. I mean, real advice on, how to deal with things. And anyway, hopefully this tells you a little bit more about how you might be able to handle some of those questions. Finally, you're also going to be given a template to develop an action plan for how you can work with and for teens. So hopefully that will come in handy to you. And again, since the slides are downloadable, you'll be able to take this and share it with anyone that you wish. So just a couple ground rules. My goals for this is to discuss the reality behind the problem. The problem is a lot of people in libraries say, I or my coworkers don't like serving teenagers. I believe that the reality of that is that the real statement is I and my coworkers don't know how to relate to teenagers. Plenty of people don't really love the noisy stickiness of little kids, but they're happy to help them find a book, or they're happy to usher them into story time. A lot of people might not like the repetition that might come with serving seniors, or kind of the more techie help assistance that they need, but you're still happy to help them. It's just the being able to relate to teenagers that sometimes is missing. So we're going to try to work on that. Using the little hand up in the top, I want you to answer who here works with teens directly as a teen services employee, a teen program host. Okay, I got 1, 2, 3, got a couple. All right, cool. Who works with teens indirectly? Say they come to your circulation desk, reference desk. You kind of have to help once in a while. It's not something that necessarily you signed up for. Yeah, those numbers are increasing. Yeah. I'm really glad you're here. I'm glad the other ones are here too. I'm very glad you specialized teen folks are here, because I believe that this information is helpful for everyone. But I really, really love when this information is taken to people who don't necessarily work with teens all the time, because those of us that have chosen to work with teens, we get it, we know it, we love it. And I think it's just a little bit different for those of us who maybe didn't choose that. So I really appreciate you being here. And again, we're going to talk about ways, towards the end of the webinar, we're going to talk about ways that you can take what you've learned and share it with people that can make decisions, that can maybe make some hiring decisions, or that you can maybe get it on your performance plan for the next year, that you get to do some more teen focused things, or support your teen staff in different ways. Something that I think you all clearly know, and maybe not all your coworkers do, is that we have to serve everyone that walks into libraries. We don't just have to, we get to. Like, how exciting that you really never know who's going to walk in your door. You never really know what they're going to need. And it's very exciting to know that, like, I always take it as a treasure hunt. When someone walks up to my reference desk, I'm like, what could they possibly ask for? Because it's not always a linear question. And it's really exciting. We don't get to pick and choose who we interact with for the most part. So hopefully, again, today gives you a little more insight into our teen population. Who am I? I was already introduced. Thank you, Anne. My name is April Pavis-Shroeder. My tweet from May 2011 is when I got my first job as a teen librarian. I was already serving teens in libraries, but not as an official librarian. So it took me 6 months after graduating with my degree to actually be a dedicated teen services librarian. But again, I've been serving them for almost 13 years. So I love what I do. I'm clearly a Maryland girl by heart. I live close enough to Maryland that I still get to go home when I want. As it was said in my bio, I was voluntold into the position. My director, or my branch manager, Marianne, voluntold me. She said, hey, read this article on teen advisory groups. I'm like, okay. I read it and I said, cool. Why did I just read that? And she said, well, you're going to lead the one here at Charlotte Hall Library. And I was like, nah, I'm okay. I don't really like teens. I didn't like them when I was one. And I was only 20 at the time. And she said, okay, well, then you can go get a different job. And I said, oh, no, we're good. I'll do it happily. That very first teen advisory board meeting, I was absolutely hooked. I'm thankful that Marianne saw something in me that I did not. But from the moment the first meeting began, I wanted to serve teens in libraries. They are audacious and funny and clever, and I absolutely loved their openness and their rawness. Over the next many years, I would sometimes struggle with them. You definitely struggle with this age group. I don't care how much you love them. It can be a struggle, but every single night that I have served a teen, I go to bed knowing that I did the right thing. and I'm serving the right group for me. Oh, did I miss a slide? Oh, there it goes. Where did I get my information? 12 going on 13 years this September of service in libraries, conversations with teens and library staff, and of course, professional resources. You're not going to get too far knowing about this group without actually communicating with them and reading the research. They are interesting enough and layered enough that you really do need to read the research. You're going to hear me talk about Daniel Siegel a lot during this presentation. That book is absolutely incredible. I would encourage you all to get it from your libraries, your interlibrary loan, whatever that looks like. Buy it, get a copy. Mine is as highlighted and dog-eared as a book can be. Definitely read Young Adult Library Services. That is the professional journal that comes out of YALSA. If no one in your library or library system is a member of YALSA, maybe you can get someone to become a member of that just so you can get those professional resources. Or you can advocate to your director or whomever to get that membership. So, all right, here we go. We're getting into it. Part 1, the teen brain. What are we going to learn about? We're going to discuss the development of the teen brain so that you are going to learn that it's not you, it's them. Okay? Not you, it's them. And then we are going to learn what teens truly need from the already developed adults in their life. Now, if you recall, I started working with teens when I was 20. I was still technically under development with my brain. So I missed a lot. I wasn't perfect, but I think my attempt was really important. So it really doesn't matter how old you are. So just keep that in mind. You can be 20 and still really do a lot with teenagers. So where are teens neurologically, developmentally? National Institute of Health study shows that brains undergo a massive reorganization between our 12th and 25th year. David Dobbs wrote an article in National Geographic, and it's called Beautiful Brains, Moody, Impulsive, and Maddening. Why do teenagers act the way they do? The subtitle was, Viewed through the eyes of evolution, their most exasperating traits may be the key to success as adults. Teens are the way they are, to put it bluntly, as you can see that quote. They are learning to use their brain's new networks. Stress, fatigue, or challenges can cause a misfire. Well, when you think about your own teenage years, think about the things that brought you stress. You know you never got enough sleep. I mean, you know, parents can get mad at their teenagers for sleeping all night and all day, but we never got mad at our babies when they slept for 16 hours. If anything, we were doing a dance. We were so grateful. Sometimes you have to think about teenagers in the same way you think about little babies, because little babies you can tell that they're physically growing. You see when their feet have outgrown a sock. You can see when their pants are now creeping up their calves. You can't necessarily see that with all teenagers, but the growth is still there. The growth is invisible and it's inside of their skulls. It's their brains. So think about that the next time that you want to get really annoyed with a teenager. Think, have they gotten enough sleep? Oh, is it finals week? And you also really never know what's going on at home. You can be, if you're a stranger to them, you definitely don't know. But the closer you are to your teen patrons, you may know that they're really going through a lot. And that can mean that they are rife for making mistakes and kind of cutting up and acting up and risky behavior. So keep that in mind. The article that I mentioned from National Geographic, it was one of the first times that the teen brain was called out as being a work in progress. The research actually helped people to stop saying it's hormones. People love to say, oh, it's teens, it's just hormones, but it's not. It's actually their brain development. Their brain is literally physically underdeveloped. In the article, the author wrote, when this brain development proceeds normally, we get better at balancing impulse, desire, goals, self-interest, rules, ethics, and even altruism, generating behavior that is more complex and sensible. But at times, and especially at first, the brain does this work clumsily. It's hard to get those new cogs to mesh. So we have to be empathetic. with our young people. We have to know that, again, even though we can't see it, they are going through something. And sometimes they don't even realize it. You think of the 11 and 12-year-olds, and they're all limbs, and they're all elbows and knees. We can see that. We can see that they're going through something there. But you also have to know about what's going on in their brains. Look at a 12-year-old and look at an 18-year-old. Physically, they are completely different bodies. Mentally, they're completely different brains. I know the brain doesn't stop developing until 25. We can make the jump from 12 to 25 years old, but even think about just that, teen time of 11, 12 years old to about 18 years old. When you're 18, you've had 5 more years of schooling. You've had advanced classes. I don't just mean advanced in, honors or AP. I mean, you're learning more on top of more on top of more. You're learning about the rest of the world. You're learning how to, leave your home nest and fly around the rest of the world, figuratively speaking. So, let's go to the next one. I'm not going to show this video, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. The video is actually, and again, you can actually see it when you download the slides. The doctor is actually talking about something called myelination. And what that does is it wraps the connections between the brain's regions, making the connections stronger. So the last place that your brain really develops is that frontal lobe. And the frontal lobe is what controls insight and blocks risk-taking behavior. This is why teens can be so brilliant. And it's also why they pull stunts like recreating the Bird Box Challenge or the Tide Pod Challenge. They can make amazing arguments on their, class essays, or have amazing debates with you at the dinner table or around a book discussion table. But they also do pretty bonehead stuff. It's because not all the brain connections have been really, really sealed and really defined. It's taking time. Again, we're talking about 13 years of work, 12 years old till 25. So what do they need? According to Daniel Siegel, the guy I mentioned earlier who wrote that book, Brainstorm, The Power and Purpose of the Teenage Brain, he says teens need essence. What is essence? The first thing is emotional support. Emotional support is an enhanced way for emotions to be generated from, this is kind of sciencey, from subcortical areas, washing over the cortical circuits of reasoning. So what that means is emotional storms, moodiness. But the upside is a powerful passion to really live and just enjoy life's every minute. That's why teens can go from being bored to just, they see that one friend that ignites that fire in them, or, that favorite song comes on and they are dancing. They don't care where they are. They don't care. They are dancing. They are pumping their fist. They are getting down. They love it. So it's that emotional spark that they need. And their lives can sometimes just be on fire. And that is thrilling and exciting. The SE is social engagement. This emerges, and parents, this is hard to hear, as teenagers turn more towards their peers than their parents. They are trying to learn what the rest of the world is like, because parents and the other people who have nurtured them from when they were young, they know they can, for the most part, and I hope this was true of all young people, they can trust that family, nest. They can trust it and they know it's a safe place to be. But they also know that in a few short years, they're flying that coop. They need to see what else is out there. So they start testing things out. Well, that's where peer pressure comes in. They see a group that they want to belong to, and maybe they do things that otherwise they wouldn't, or things that they know they shouldn't, but, well, they're just kind of testing it out, right? But this is also a time where they start really realizing what supportive relationships really look like. Remember when you first realized that you didn't just want to go over to your friend's house to play, but you wanted to go to your friend's house and you guys just talked and talked and you were just walking and talking. You wanted to talk on the phone all night. Your life, again, that emotional support, that spark, your life is on fire and you can't wait to just talk about it. You are learning about all that life entails. You're sharing stories. You're talking about your future. You're talking about things that you love and upset you, and things that make your heart beat. Relationships are a really key factor in this. So in terms of teen programming, finding ways to really encourage that social engagement could be really important for a program. The N is novelty seeking. All right. This is because of the shift in the brain's dopamine system. To be honest, this is actually one of the reasons why if you start drug use at a young age, your addiction could be lifelong, because the dopamine system is kind of firing a lot and trying to figure out its medium wave kind of setting. And if you do a little too much, that risk seeking is going to be the thing that you kind of fall back on because it's just all you're doing. So try to, find the sweet spot between risk taking and not. But the good thing about the novelty seeking is that you're also having the courage to leave the familiar behind. Join that new group. You've been maybe in soccer, but maybe you want to give theater a shot. Why not? It looks really fun. You get to sing, you get to use accents, you get to wear costumes. That could be cool. Or maybe young people that, were, kept their feet on the ground. Maybe that's when they want to start looking into something more exciting like skateboarding or biking or what have you. So they're looking for familiarity, but they're also looking for something fun and exciting. Last of the essence is CE. It's as we push against the status quo, imagining how things could be, not accepting them as they are. I think we've definitely seen in the past few years how young people are stepping up politically and social activism wise. I think that they see, well, I don't think, I know, they see what is and they say, well, no, I don't really like that. And that could be on many different topics. It could be everything from, school lunches. I worked at a charter school for a short period of time, and the students kind of led a revolution in terms of what you're feeding us is not good. And this was at a school in Southeast DC, and that was the only meal some of these kids were getting. I think we can all understand that there are many young people that only get 1 or 2 meals a day, and it's, because of the USDA, school food system. So these young people said, look, we're getting 1 meal a day and it's crap and we need something better. So they're becoming activists. They're not conforming. This is when you're going to see young people dressing a little differently, trying out a little something else. But what do they need? We can figure out where they are. We can know that. But what do they need? When I first got into serving teens, I found this somewhere. I can't actually attribute it to who gave it to me. I wish I could. It's the 40 developmental assets, and it is still extremely popular. As far as I know, in my 13 years, none of the 40 assets have actually changed because it is such an amazing resource. It was actually published in 1990, but somehow, almost 20 years later, it is still spot on. Within the little topics you see listed there, what is that, 7, 8, where you see those, that it's all in there. You'll see different little bullet points. Another really great resource is the 7 developmental needs of young adolescents. This is in a book that I had to get for grad school called Bare Bones Young Adult Services. I mean, I think in 20 years, some things could be updated, but this is just an absolutely wonderful resource. It doesn't take into account the brain part, but if you look at it, there's some things that are really obvious, like the creative expression, the need to express new feelings and interests, helping them understand and accept themselves, meaningful participation. Again, being part of a new group, a different group, exploring topics with other people. Where's that social engagement? Where am I getting that emotional spark from? Physical activity, again, that risky behavior. Look, we don't want them all cliff diving or bungee jumping, but what are some things? What's that sign? No skateboarding here. Those were up everywhere in the 80s and 90s. And now there are skate parks. Why? Because young people said, give me somewhere to be, active and get my energy up. And I don't want it to just be a baseball diamond or a soccer field. Give me something that's a little bit on the risky side, where I actually have to wear a helmet. And there it is. So what do teens need? We need to honor the person the adolescent is and who the adolescent is becoming. We really love to talk about the potential of a teenager, but if we only talk about the potential, we're really missing who they already are. And I think we as adults could learn a lot from them. They have that, they're looking for an emotional spark. When was the last time you were looking for that? Or when was the last time you hosted a library program on maybe not self-help, but self-exploration, a program on journaling or a program on creative outlets like collaging just for yourself. Towards the end of the year, you could do a vision board. What do you want your year to look like? A young person, oh my God, it's boundaryless. But, you get adults and we think about, oh, well, I would love to put a picture of, the wonders of the world up there, but I don't have the money for that. Teens couldn't care less if they have the money for it. They know that they are dreaming of seeing the 7 wonders of the world, so they're going to put those pictures up there. We as adults are so held back by what we consciously know are holding us back. We need a passport. We need money. We need someone to walk the dog while we're gone. Can we afford to have someone walk the dog while we're gone? Can we afford to take off work, sick leave? Young people don't necessarily think of those things, which they will. They will grow to learn those things. So let's not write off that they're just immature and they don't care about life's necessities. Well, of course they do. They just don't need to care about them just yet. So let's really harness that excitement. We need to see the power of who they are now and who they will be. We need to, they need time to work with peers with adult interference. Not interference really, but adult, maybe participation, gentle guidance. I have a group of young people who are in my life who are activists, and sure, they can do it by themselves. Absolutely. They know how to, one of them has a license, they know how to go to the store, they know how to buy poster board and all that. But they don't also necessarily know the logistics of, okay, well, how do we keep safe when we're at a rally? How do we keep safe, or how do we make sure we're all transportating the same way? What if we get lost, or what if we, split up? How do we make sure that everyone has their smart trip cards for the metro, and all those things. So where they have a lot of that energy, that is where the adult practicality can really come in handy. So we love the energy that teens provide. And without absolutely stomping on them, we should be supportively harnessing a little bit-ish, okay? Kind of like a dog or a horse kind of shepherding the flock. You don't actually pin them in. You just say, no, this way, not that way, this way. Not telling them what to think or how to think, but just reminding them or piping up every now and then saying, okay, guys, I see that you want to host this amazing Harry Potter event for the whole library, and it's going to be weekend long, but our budget will not allow for that because the building cost is this, and our budget is only this. So how about we try to pack it all into one day and we narrow it down to what you absolutely want? Where that practicality kind of comes into play. But again, you need to be gentle. You need to be supportive, because if you just run in there like the adult that they usually see in their life, dad saying go do the dishes, mom saying go mow the lawn, teachers saying, do this work and you better turn it in tomorrow. They get enough of that. They don't need that at the library. And if they do, they're not going to come back. So we're going to talk about teens as library patrons. So we got a little bit of their brain down, but let's talk about why we need them. Let's talk about why we want them, and let's talk about how we can help them. So I'm going to be quiet just for a minute, and I would love it if our participants might be interested in answering one or both of these questions. Why do we need or want teen patrons? How are teenagers valuable customers now? Please don't tell me they're going to be taxpayers. I know they're going to be taxpayers, but how are they valuable now? And I'm going to read these kind of as they come up. Okay, so tech support Brian says they are valuable due to their social media and word of mouth advertisement abilities. If they like it, they'll advertise. That is absolutely factual. I can't tell you how many teens I know advertised the Bird Box movie to me. Now, they didn't do it by showing me the movie. They did it by showing me their Bird Box challenges in real life. I was very unhappy with them, and I made sure I told them that. But they really are all about sharing. So you might think that they're being antisocial when they're staring down at their phone. I would venture to guess that they're actually being very social. Leslie says, I learn from them. Thank you, Leslie, because that is absolutely true. People who think that teens don't have anything to offer us have clearly never had a conversation with them. Catherine and Jenny, teen patrons are lifelong library supporters. We are there for everyone. They are the public we serve. Amen. Desiree, I learn a lot from them. Yep. Jasmine, libraries serve everyone, including teens. They're often the forgotten demographic. Girl, yes. When I do kind of tours of my library, or someone comes in to use the printer because it's the one time a year that their printer broke and they need to print off their ticket to fly to, I don't know, Florida or something. Someone always makes a comment. Wow, the library's really busy today. And I love to use that opportunity to talk about all the things the library has. And usually they also comment on, oh, you have a teen center. That's kind of cool. And I go into, yeah, we have this giant wing for children with their own story time rooms and collections. The rest of the library is meant for adults and seniors. What's for teens? And they're like, yeah, I wish I had that when I was a kid. So absolutely, they're definitely the forgotten demographic. Kendall says they are valuable because they bring a different perspective to library functions like programming and books to buy. Absolutely. If you're part of a really small library system, or you want advice on what to buy, they're the ones you should go to. They're the ones that know what's being read. Catherine and Jenny, they are very enthusiastic, full of energy, a wonderful asset to our community, our city, and the library. 100%. Sonia, lots of fun seeing what they love to do, from chess club to computer gaming. Right, their interests are so varied. And it's really neat to see that, because what we think about teenagers isn't always accurate. And I love being surprised by them. Catherine and Jenny, we allow our teen volunteers the opportunity to try, succeed or fail is unjudged. Just the opportunity for them to try is a success. Yes, because again, so often in life, again, son, go do the dishes. Well, someone's gonna, mom or dad is gonna say, well, you didn't do it right. You didn't load the dishwasher right. Go mow the lawn. Oh, you didn't edge it right. They're always getting that criticism, right? The library can be a very safe place for them to try something. Some of our book clubs meet during the day, so that's not really conducive to a teen joining. But our evening ones, I've encouraged more advanced teens to join our adult book clubs. Not because I think the book clubs are boring and they need some excitement in them, but because sometimes young people have amazing insight, and why can't they share their interests in what they're learning? Cool. Gracine says to share their talents and interests. Awesome. Right. Well, keep those coming, because I believe everyone can read what everyone else is writing. So I really appreciate you all responding to those. We're going to move on. So how can we help them? YALSA, again, that's the Young Adult Library Services Association out of the American Library Association. They wrote the Teen Services Evaluation Tool for public libraries to use when developing or analyzing the services they currently provide or hope to provide to teens. Some of the themes that librarians can evaluate themselves on include familiarity with developmental needs of teens, the staff's ability to form appropriate professional relationships with young adults, and the leadership's support of establishing an environment wherein all staff serve young adults with courtesy and respect. And unfortunately, that is something that I see a lot, and I've seen a lot in my 13 years working with teens is, sure, the library system very well may have a teen services librarian, which is wonderful. Heck, when I was out in Loudoun County, Virginia, we had an entire team. There were teen services managers and staff at every one of our 8 branches. Every one of them had a dedicated teen services staff member. That is incredible. That is not the norm. The norm is that there might be someone who is a teen services assistant or maybe a teen services librarian for an entire system. And then they usually have other things they have to do. They may fall under the purview of the children's librarian, and they have to do story times and host, cute kids programs, which is great. But if you're working on developing a story time for Tuesday, you're not developing a program for teenagers. So unfortunately, I really think a lot of this work has to start being done with library leadership, because there are plenty of librarians and library staff who love teenagers, who love working with them, who are teen services, librarians. But then when they look for that next step up, that promotion, it's not a teen services job, because there are very few teen services managers positions in public libraries. So we're losing that advocacy of sorts, and we're losing that expertise, because when the teen services librarian becomes the branch manager, they don't get to focus all their time on teens anymore. They have to focus their time on, personnel and scheduling and, banning reports and all that kind of stuff. And then that person becomes the director, and the memory of serving teens is there, but really now they have to go serve, at board meetings, and they have to go talk to city councilors and things like that. So, because there's no upward mobility for teen services staff, as they grow into promotional opportunities, we're losing them. So I feel like library management and administration really needs to get behind teen services. There are not enough youth, and that means children and teen programming, coordinator positions. That's a position I held, again, out in Loudoun County. I was the youth programming coordinator, and I spent, for the whole system, I spent my time equally between children's and teens, because both are absolutely deserving of my time. A lot of youth coordinator positions have to focus a lot of their time on children, because that's where the community thinks all the attention should go. So those of you in leadership positions, give that a thought. Think about how you might be able to get teens into the conversation at those higher levels. The second tool you'll see there, young adult, YALSA's competencies for librarians serving youth. Young adults deserve the best. It was first developed in 1981, which I think is wonderful. The most recent one was created in January 2010. I wouldn't be surprised if you see an update coming soon. There is something that YALSA is doing, and it's actually called T3. I don't know too much about it yet, but it's basically a train the trainer kind of thing, trying to get more teen services into public libraries across the country. Catherine and Jenny, you're doing T3 in Memphis. That is awesome, and I am really excited to learn more about it. I might try to get to one of those kind of sessions. I know they're doing it at the YALSA Symposium, which I think is in Memphis, which is, I think, what you're talking about. Yeah, they're doing a big thing out there, whether it's webinars. Try to get into one of those if you can. It's really pushing teen services as a whole, which I think is just amazing. A few of the competencies that are mentioned in this are design activities to involve young adults in planning and decision making. That could involve something like having a teen serve on your board, and not just a token, oh, look, there's a teen here, but you have to leave when it comes to this, this, or this, or this, or this. Really having them on your board. Meet the information and recreational needs of young adults through the development of an appropriate collection for readers and non-readers. That could mean games. That could mean craft programs. It doesn't necessarily have to be a book that libraries supply to teens for support. Another one of the competencies is create an environment that embraces the flexible and changing nature of young adults' entertainment, technological, and informational needs. So how can we help them? Parents, oh, love them. They put a tremendous amount of pressure on their teens to excel academically, athletically, in extracurricular activities. I don't know about Florida. I don't live there. I don't have family there, but I can say around here in the Northern Virginia, DC area, ordinary is very much looked down upon. If you are not succeeding and really excelling, it's a lot of hard work. To be completely honest, and sorry to be a downer, the CDC actually had to come up here and figure out what was going on, because there was a dozen suicides in one school year between some of the high schools here in Fairfax County. And they were trying to figure out what's going on. What is going on with these young people? And it's because of their the massive amount of pressure put on them by this community to excel. And that's really, really hard. When a teen is in your library, give them an opportunity to help, but don't pressure them to be some kind of star. You know, if you have a teen advisory board and they desperately want to host a puppet show, but they do not listen to one bit of your advice, let them learn from their mistake. Again, the gentle guidance of, hey guys, I hear you want to do a puppet show, but I don't really know how that will go over here. We don't have, a ton of kids that come to our programs on Saturdays when you all are available. It's usually our weekdays that are popular. No, but we really want to do it. We think it'll be great. We'll promote it and blah, blah. All right, guys, you know what? You give it a shot. You got to let them. Wouldn't you want your boss to give you the opportunity to flex your, spread your wings and try something new? Yeah, you might fail, but it's really nice to be given the opportunity, right? As Catherine and Jenny said, succeed or fail, we're not judging you. Another thing is sometimes the teenagers just want to come play Fortnite. Sometimes they just want to sit there and talk. Don't try to force them into something. Like we said earlier, brain development and being a teenager, it's an invisible kind of situation. You don't really know what they're getting from home, the stress, the fatigue, right? You don't know what they're getting in the rest of their lives. So the library could very well be like a refuge for them. So let it be that. Furthermore, let's say a helicopter parent comes in, wants to complain about their child's choice of book or leisure activity. Don't simply agree with that parent, or let's say someone who needs a computer but has to wait their turn is mad because, well, those kids are just playing games and I need to do something important. Well, don't just say, yeah, I know they're just playing games, but they were here first. Say, sir or ma'am, I understand that you need to get on a computer, but what they're doing is important to them, just as what you need to do is important to you. So you're next in line. Next person that pops up, it's your seat. Don't give in to that judgmental pressure from people who don't understand teenagers. Actively speak against it. You don't need to be mean. You don't need to be nasty. But there are very gentle ways for you to go to bat for teenagers. And you know what? When they hear that, and they might not ever hear it, but if they do, that's huge. You could offer some special reference assistance. Teens often feel insecure, judging neutral or ambiguous behaviors in others to be negative and threatening. I always like to reassure young people that what they're asking is valid. A lot of teenagers or people, period, at the library will come up to the reference desk and they think they're interrupting me. And they'll say, oh, sorry to bother you. And I'm like, oh, you are not bothering me. I've been waiting for you. What can I do for you? It could also be like when they just walk into the library, say, hey, thanks for coming in today. Yeah, they might look at you like you're stupid. Like, why are you talking to me? Because that's their kind of go-to. They've unfortunately been a little conditioned to not really trust adults, or necessarily like us. But when you keep smiling at them or you keep reassuring them that you appreciate that they're there, they're going to feel that, and that is going to resonate with them. There's a couple other things in my experience that I just want to point out. Don't pawn teens off onto another staff member. If you're not one of the teen services people and you're listening to this webinar, if you're not the teen services person, but you have to interact with a teen for whatever reason, don't go to your teen services person and say, hey, can you go talk to that kid about this thing? You should be able to talk to them. It is not the young adult librarian or teen services librarian's job to only speak to the youth. You would never look at a child and say, I'm not here to serve you. That's the children's librarian's job. You would just never say that. So you can help them just as much as someone else can. So please be more inviting to them. Going back to, we were talking about how we can really help young people. Libraries and librarians can serve as conduits to help teens begin to navigate that adult life. Encourage teens to come to your adult programs, such as book discussions or presentations or workshops, documentary film showings, regular film showings. That way they can see how adults interact, and they can learn by observing and participating in those conversations how to communicate as an adult. I love when I'm talking with teenagers and an adult comes over, or I'm already talking with an adult and we walk over to where the teens are and include them in the conversation, because every person in that conversation knows that I'm not changing my tone, I'm not changing my words, I'm not changing anything about me, because I trust that young people can follow what I'm saying just as much as my, middle-aged coworker. I think it's very important that they see that they are just like everyone else, that they're not just some other kind of group, right? So the library I work for right now in Northern Virginia, I've only been working there for just a little while, but back in 2015, the person who is still the teen services librarian did a focus group. And these are some of the things that the high school students said about the librarians. Staff look at us like we're going to steal something. It feels like we're being patrolled. People stare at us. The people are snooty. They seem judgmental. If they're saying that in Alexandria, Virginia, they're saying that everywhere. They're probably even saying that at places where there is a wonderful teen program and support system. We're going to skip this. This is the part that I just want to show you real quick. Teaching others. I'm not leaving much time for questions, and I'm very sorry about that. Teaching others. Again, I talked about how you can talk to your colleagues and talking to patrons about supporting them. You can write a vision statement for yourself about how you want to perceive teen patrons going forward. If you know that you're not doing a good job at this, think about how you want to be better at it. This is also that action plan that you can create for what you want your library to look like in terms of teen services, what you want yourself to look at in terms of teen services. Maybe you're in management and you have the ability to change some things. Get a group together, start talking about it. Just not even a real committee. Just grab some people who you think have shown interest or might be interested and say, hey, let's talk about how we can better serve this entire group of people. I am going to cut it there because I want to leave time for questions. But again, I think the action plan is a really good one just to kind of draft up with yourself. So thank you all for listening. Well, I mean, I think you were listening. It's not like I could hear you. Thank you all for participating when I asked you a question. If you have any questions, please type them into the box, or the discussion box. I will read them out loud before I answer them. Oh, thanks, Brian. Catherine and Jenny, I'm going to visit you. It has been a minute since I've had a Slim Jim, and I don't know. This pregnant woman all of a sudden wants a Slim Jim with chocolate. So, yeah. All right. Where are you guys located? I'm going to come find you. Oh, that's right. Delightful. Oh, T3, Gracine. T3 means what, please? T3 is just it's just a little way of saying train the trainer. So if you go to the YALSA blog, YALSA blog, Young Adult Library Services Association, this was a while ago, back on October 30th of 2018, they have a blog post called Transforming Teen Services Train the Trainer Report from the Field. And this is talking about their Train the Trainer program. And it has links so you can read more about the Train the Trainer program. Again, T3. The YALSA page has it on their continuing education. On their continuing education page. It's under, continuing education, face-to-face institutes, online courses, self-paced e-learning, Train the Trainer project. Jasmine. Sadly, a lot of libraries give up on teen programs due to poor attendance. A lot of libraries have trouble piquing the interest of teens. We at our branch have managed to find a solution to this, but this is a challenge. And Jasmine, yeah, we would love to know what those are. I'm happy to. The solution is Netflix. What? Do you all stream Netflix shows? I have to tell you, something that I was thinking about as an adult programming librarian where I am right now, I was thinking about having a post-debate coffee event. So next year during when the debates really start getting going, the next day, because we can't stay up until 10 o'clock waiting for those things to finish, the next morning host a debate debrief. And everyone can come in and chat about, hey, what did you hear? What did you see? And the cool thing about the morning after is that all the facts will have come out, the fact checking. So you're not talking about something when you're fired up. You're talking about it saying, okay, right, well, that wasn't exactly accurate. Let's talk about the fact of it. So you could do like a debate watch party with young people because this affects them. Even if they can't vote in 2020, it very much affects them. And they know that. Catherine and Jenny say, my first question to everyone is, what are you watching on Netflix? That is brilliant. And especially now, because I don't know if y'all heard the news yesterday, the Netflix show 13 Reasons Why, which we all know came from the, 2008 young adult novel, 13 Reasons Why. It took them 3 seasons, but they're finally deleting the scene where it actually shows the young girl in the act of committing suicide. And look, we know she's an actor, but it's vivid. And it took them 3 years to do it. So maybe one of the other questions is not just what are you watching, but what do you think about them deleting that scene? Jasmine says, another challenge of working with teens is rebelliousness and testing boundaries. Absolutely. And Jasmine, and I should have said this, and I need to find a place to put it in my webinar. You have to have boundaries. Your libraries, policies, all that is the boundary. There is no way around library policy. You know that. I know that. Your board knows that. The teens need to learn that. And you are a good librarian if you enforce the boundaries. There are many young people, and it's so tragic, but there are many young people that grow up in boundaryless households. And that makes for very risky behavior. They don't know, Like the world is just so big, and they know that. That is what boundaries are. That's why adults put boundaries on them to say, okay, it's big, but it ain't that big. Relax, calm down. Let's work within a smaller scope. Remember, you're in the library, you're not outside, things like that. You get to use your library's policy as rules. You're not the rule maker, but you are the rule enforcer. So the good thing is you always have that to go back on. That's your scapegoat. Yes, Natalie, exactly. Teenagers push you if you treat them differently. Enforce the rules equally. What you say to an extremely loud talking senior citizen has to be the same thing you say to a young person. You're not going to walk over to, 85-year-old Bert and say, hey, Bert, can you bring it down? You say, Bert, you're getting a little loud again. Would you mind bringing it down? So don't walk over to the teenagers and give them attitude. Say, guys, I've been over here a couple times. I got to tell you, if I come over again, you have to leave. Why don't you just go out into the reading garden or something while you're all watching the YouTube videos and you're laughing and you're, having a good time. Come back in, when you're done watching the videos. Things like that. But yeah, you have to be equal about it. All right, well, we are officially at 3:01, and I just want to be respectful of everyone's time. I am so thankful that all of you were here listening. You get my contact information on the slides. Please contact me for any reason at all. I love talking about this. This totally fires me up. And I'm very grateful for all of you for caring, if nothing else, for the past 61 minutes about teenagers.
That's good. I like that. Okay, April, great work. Excellent work. Anybody have any final thoughts or questions for April before we shut it down?
Jasmine's idea of bringing snacks, 100%. There is no teen program if there's no snacks. Can it at all be a program if there's not food? Teens are physically growing. Their brains are growing. They need sustenance. Provide it. Period.
We all do.
Always get something you like.
And they're always hungry, and they like cheap food.
God, don't they?
That's a cool thing.
They do. They don't have high standards when it comes to junk food.
Yep.
Cheese curls are cheese curls, man.
There you go. And they come in those big plastic boxes. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope to see you again soon at another PCI webinar. Have a great afternoon, everybody. And thank you, April, for putting together such a great research-based program. I love research-based programs.